Yes. Fireplaces, refrigerators,
You would call
Each of for like 3 years. I get like all kinds of long customer.
I'd still like people to come on. My parents,
You know what the thing is? What I like about Beach Road is like at 2 o'clock in the morning, like I'll even call.
yes,
Somebody there like a 20-minute. They must sit around and just
they're lazy.
they must sit around and just waiting. And they're so for that alone, I'll pay.
2, 3. Welcome everybody. Hi. Thank you. Use the gap. Hi. Welcome everybody to the Monday, October 7th Board of Trustees meeting. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then afterwards we're going to have 2 moments of silence. One to remember J. Bruce Byrne, our longtime village justice who passed away last week. And second, to remember those who were murdered in Israel a year ago today, and to remember those who are still held hostage. So I will have, where's Mr. Lee? Larry, why don't you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, thank you. First order of business is a public hearing to, I think at this point, vote on local law 6 of 2024, which is to amend our tree code to 19-2 to get into the specifics of what size diameter a tree is that would require or not require a permit. And we've discussed this at a few other board meetings, and I know we had some questions. And over the last couple of months, we've changed the verbiage to make it clearer about specimen trees being a diameter of 2.5 inches or greater, all other evergreen trees, diameter 4.5 inches or greater, and for all other deciduous trees, a diameter of 6 inches or greater. And in the code, we have a listing, I believe, of the types of trees that this affects. So,
If I may.
yes, sir, please.
Sorry, just clarify. The only 2 changes from last time until today are, as you mentioned, with respect to deciduous trees, the board had been considering making the cutoff 7.5 inches, but it was determined based on comparison with other villages that actually the appropriate diameter for all other deciduous trees, that's aside from evergreens or specimens, that the applicable diameter should be 6 inches or greater. So you would need a permit if the diameter is 6 inches or greater. The additional change was with respect to replanting, that there would be the requirement that somebody replant the trees, which is consistent with what the code now will require for a permit in any event, but would also include a provision that the village arborist will inspect within 6 months to make sure that the tree is in fact taken and is growing, and that there would be a $1,000 deposit for a tree being replanted, which is refunded to the homeowner after 6 months.
And that $1,000 is currently what we require. It's nothing new.
No, it's nothing new. This would just add it to the provision if somebody did not seek a permit, it would really be bringing them into the same fold as if they had sought the permit initially.
Right.
Right. So those are the only 2 changes from before. This was circulated to the board for consideration September 27th, and then I resent. So nothing changed in those 2.
Right, so it's been aged properly. Does any of the board members have a question on this? No? Anybody from the public have a question on this? Oh, wait a minute. I needed to make a motion to open the public hearing. Thank you, Mark. So first I want to make a motion to open the public hearing, seconded by,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
So now we're having the public hearing. No comments from the board, no comments from the public. I would like to make a motion to enact local law 6 of 2024, amend chapter 219-2 trees definitions. Do I need to do secra?
I would request that as a part of that motion, that the board note that for the purposes of secret, that this will be a type 2 action where you have significant impact on the environment.
I will make that motion as well. Do I have a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Excellent. Barb? Mary Jo seconded. All, listen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. All right. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing portion of this meeting.
I'll second.
Oh, wait,
No, the secret.
not necessary.
One's a public meeting, one's a public
Correct.
hearing.
So
So we
we'll
gotta
close-
close the public hearing.
We're closing the public hearing.
So I'll second it, the mayor.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, we are now going to pivot to a public meeting where we are going to discuss the Flower Hill Security Patrol. Last month it came up that some trustees were looking at the reason why to continue the patrol or reason to discontinue the patrol. And I felt that this was a important enough topic that we need to gather as much public comment as we can. That being said, that's where we're having this meeting. Before we start, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of quick comments. I'm going to pass it to AJ Smith, who chairs the Security Advisory Committee. Then we'll open it up to trustee comments, and then we'll open it up to public comments. I have the list if anybody wants to speak. David, who didn't sign in. David, sign in if you want to speak.
I saw
Did you?
be number 2. Little bigger.
Oh, that's David Frankel? Okay. David, if you want me to call him, he's got to be clear.
It's an age.
So we're going to do that. So a couple of things. One, before I forget, I was speaking with Assemblywoman Saliti, who, if we need to ever pivot to getting some grants for technology, not to pay for the patrol, but technology, hardware types of things, that's something she can work with the village on trying to secure some grants. And then before AJ speaks, I'm going to do my quick one slide I have here. I just wanted everybody to understand the costs involved with this patrol. We currently have budgeted for this based on $62 an hour, cost per day, cost per week, cost per month, $180,000 for the year. Of our budget, and this is the budget less fire, so I didn't inflate the budget with the fire number because the fire number for Port Washington Fire and Roslyn comes right into the village and goes out, because otherwise this number becomes about a $4 million budget. So just looking at this $3.367 billion budget, the cost of the patrol is about 5%. If you take that number of 180,000, we look at our 1,515 households based on the 2020 census, we get down to an annual cost per household for the patrol, as is the one car, of $119 per household for the year. And if you look at the monthly cost, that's $10. And I really didn't feel like dividing that out by daily because then the numbers change. That's great. I'm now going to pass it over to AJ. That might be 5 weeks. I don't know if this is exactly 4 weeks now, but
It is 5 weeks.
Okay,
so that's the answer of why it's
gotcha.
not exactly.
So it's weekly, really?
Yes, we pay I believe we get a bill bi-weekly from them,
No, we get a weekly bill. We
Okay.
pay them monthly.
right? But sometimes it's 5 weeks and then sometimes it's 4.
So
So
12 months times 17,000 or
No, it's
just by?
more like, that 3,500, a week, and then it's,
a month, it's usually about almost 14,000. That 17,000 is when you have the 5 weeks.
All right. I'm sure I'll have more comments, but AJ, I'll pass it to you with the comments from when you met with the Security Advisory Committee.
Okay, I want to say February, March of this year, we started a security advisory committee because of concerns in the village about what would be best characterized as a mini crime wave that was occurring in our village. The security advisory committee, just so we have a sense of who they were populated by people that came, generally people that came to board meetings and had discussions that suggested that they were in touch with a lot of neighbors and had some good contacts in different parts of the community. It was also created so that, much like the board, we try to keep it such that we have 3 communities as part of the village of Flower Hill: Port Washington, Roslyn, and Manhasset, and we try to make sure that each section of the village, if you will, has some sort of representation, and was specifically with respect to this, that they would have some sort of representation. That being said, the people that were chosen were initially vocal with expressing their concerns about some of the problems with the activities that were occurring in our community, and essentially were asking us to do something about it. As most people in this room know, not all of us, in our last budget, but prior to that, we implemented a program where we would have a security patrol. We had different suggestions. Some people wanted multiple vehicles. Some people felt it would be a complete waste of money. The board sort of came out with a test, if you will, of implementing a single vehicle that rides the village every night from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I've heard different things about it, but I know, at least where I live, I see the car virtually every night, usually between the hours of 10 and 12, usually late in a Met game or Monday Night Football game, but I do see the vehicle traveling through the community. We also were, confronted is not the correct word, but we were provided with, at that time, this is earlier, petitions that were signed by multiple members of the community that were brought to our attention by people that ultimately became part of this committee. After the last board meeting, it was suggested that perhaps this is not a good use of village funds. I was then tasked with reconvening the committee, which hadn't met over the summer, because I just thought it was not easy to get everyone together. But we had a meeting, as a result of the September meeting here, I was asked to reconvene the security committee in the interim, which I did. The committee, I'd like to say not surprisingly, because I knew most of their feelings about this situation, voted unanimously that they felt that it was a worthwhile endeavor and that we should continue to fund this program involving the use of a single security vehicle. The committee also, originally some members wanted to reach out to the community to obtain petitions to show their support for this situation. And then members of the community said, well, we shouldn't just get petitions that show support. We should have a petition that is yes or no, which do you prefer to do? We kind of went back and forth because some of the members of the committee felt that they were there to essentially promote their belief, and they weren't necessarily sure they wanted to get out of petitions to end the patrol because they didn't agree with that. But ultimately, a compromise was reached, and a petition form was provided to all members of the committee. It was not provided to the members of the board, and I myself have not solicited any petitions one way or the other with respect to this, but rather asked members of the committee what they wish to, if they wish to do this as a citizen project, that they should feel so to do so. And I've also it's been expressed by myself and the mayor who attended the meeting as well, that we're open to listening to whatever anybody, any resident, any taxpayer has to say about this, certainly any voter. And one of the reasons I didn't have to, but one of the reasons I held the meeting was to gain input. And at the last board meeting, we also voted to open to the public discussions about this tonight, with the board agreeing that we weren't going to vote one way or the other tonight. So this is not a technical public hearing. In fact, a public hearing like we just had for the trees isn't necessary with respect to this, but this is really we want to hear the public as compared to a public hearing. And that's kind of where we are tonight. One of the members of my committee, is it Ms. Chieko, did I say your name?
Yes.
Got the name right. Handed me one of the petitions that had the two boxes, yes or no, 19 signatures, and they all voted, actually it's 20 because I believe your husband signed as well. They all voted that they felt that it was a worthwhile endeavor to maintain the committee. Just a few other quick comments. One is, it's interesting when we talk about this because the people that I've spoken to that are in favor of getting rid of this thing suggest that it's really not effective and it's kind of a waste of taxpayers' money. And they'll always talk about it as being 5% of the budget. People that are in favor of it think it is worthwhile, it makes people feel better, makes them feel safer, and they'll talk about it being only $120 on average for each household. Both of those things are true. So it's kind of an interesting thing because when you say it one way, 5% sounds like a lot. When you say it another way, it's an average of 120 a house. Maybe that doesn't sound like a lot of money to a lot of people. But of course, all of these things are factors in the decision-making process that the board is going to have to go through. This, as was pointed out, this was a new line item for us. It was a new budget item for us this year, which meant it was an added cost that was not part of our annual budgets in the past. And to pay for it before this year's budget got paid for, we actually dipped into reserve funds to start the program without waiting for a new budget. So, I mean, that's sort of my report with respect to that committee, and I give the microphone back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll open it up to trustees for comments. I'll start from the left and work my way to the right.
Should we use this microphone? Did you use a microphone?
No, he just talks.
No, I'm just a lawyer.
He's a lawyer. He gets paid to speak loud.
You project well.
I'm a former teacher, phys ed teacher and coach, so I think
No
I
questions
should
there.
nab you for that. Anyway,
You can use the mic if you want.
I
Press the
think I
button,
need to
it
listen,
should
but you
work.
can't hear me. We are all elected to serve the residents of Flower Hill, each one of us sitting before you tonight. In addition to local laws such as the tree law we talked about briefly, that are meant to enhance the quality of life and that we enjoy in this village, we are also charged with being fiscal stewards. And I just really wanted the opportunity to clarify what I said and what my intention was. And my intention was to initiate a discussion regarding the effectiveness of the patrol. What is a plan to measure the effectiveness, and what is the plan for a timeline? Do we continue ad infinitum? Do we evaluate annually? And how are we measuring it? Let me just talk about some numbers. In addition, thank you, Randall, for your numbers. Many of you may or may not know, if you can get my postcard, I'm also the receiver of taxes for the town of North Hempstead, so I have access to how money is spent in your general taxes. So in those numbers, my number said 1,565 residential parcels, but it could be 1,515, maybe that counted the commercial, but whatever.
I did it based on the census.
Yeah, that's
The
fine.
problem-
So anyway, I did it based on the tax roll from last year, 1,565, but whatever, it's all gonna get us to the same place. The county tax levy, the county police levy, which you pay as part of your general taxes, which will be coming up in January, pay it twice a year, was for the village of Flower Hill only, not including commercial properties, which there are some. The bill was $3,871,704. There's also a levy for headquarters, a police headquarter levy. That amount is $2,654,190. If you add it up, it comes up to $6,525,894. So if you average 1,515 homes, that's $4,037 per home. If you average, if you have my larger number, then it's $4,170 per home. Now, I would like to state that I have absolutely full faith in that every penny of that $6.5 million is being well spent. I have faith in the commissioner and in Commissioner Ryder, who's been to speak with us and very accessible, and the Nassau County Police Department. So let's just keep that number in mind, $6.5 million. We've already discussed that this is by, all rights. If you look at $6.5 million, you would say, well, $180,000 or $182,000, whatever it is annually, is really not that much extra. So I guess that brings me to my next point. For $544,000 per month, should we, or I think we should, request a detailed update, probably on a monthly basis, of crime in our local villages and towns? We currently get, and Marla will publish for all the trustees, a listing of what larcenies, break-ins, et cetera, have happened in the village. But I think that a conversation with somebody from Commissioner Ryder's, whether it's the 6th precinct probably, would be the least that we could ask as residents, to have some idea of what trends are. What are they in Muncie Park, East Hills, what are our Port Washington, Roslyn? And I'm just throwing these suggestions out, but perhaps that wouldn't be unreasonable. Has the security committee, or do they have plans to look at other options? I know that as Mayor Koblenz in East Hills has, as Frank told me, 44 entrances to major thoroughfares in his village. Rich, you probably know the answer to how many we have. What?
About 26.
So we have 26. So let's say we have 50% of what they have. It's a large fee. It was $900,000 for those 44 cameras.
Half of it was paid for grant.
And half of it was paid for grant, as Mayor, mentioned that he has spoken to Assemblywoman Stiletti. License plate readers. I know that was one idea that was brought up as a possibility. Is that something the police, of our $6.5 million, can some of it be channeled to us for license plate readers on our major Port Washington Boulevard? Again, just throwing out that idea as other possibilities. I have spoken to Assemblyman Stiletti. I probably run into her a couple times a week, and she is a Flower Hill resident. She does not have dedicated money for grants for a security patrol, but she does have money in a reserve fund that if requested and we make a proposal in a case, she will do her best to represent our interests, and she committed to that. So at the end of the day, I think the mayor and this entire board sitting before you, we're all volunteers, have the best interests of our residents in mind when we make decisions. My objective for bringing up the topic at the meeting was to open up a discussion. It had not been brought up in terms of what are we doing in terms of measurement. And I realize when you're talking about people's safety and their sense of security in their home, look, as many of you know, my home was also broken into and I came home while they were there. This is not something I'm taking lightly. This is not a dollar and cents issue. It's more of how are we measuring this? What is the game plan? What's the process moving forward? Because even though it's only 5% of the Flower Hill budget, we showed for the first time, and not only because of the security patrol, because of healthcare benefits, everything's going up, and we had to absorb that, replacing equipment, things that you can't keep a budget stagnant for years on end. Things do go up. But this was an additional item that we felt as a board was important. But my question 9 months later is, what is being done? What is the game plan to see if this is effective? So I realize there are a lot of people, you're all going to speak, and each of you, what you have to say is really important. But there are, whether it's 1,500 homes or 1,565 homes, that's a lot of homes. And that's a lot of people that aren't here to vote. or to express their opinion. So we can only have the people here who had interest enough to read the mayor's letter and show up and come to voice your opinion, which, of course, we are not making decisions in a vacuum. But at the end of the day, I think it's my responsibility and the responsibility of this board to look at a process and a game plan. And something that's not open-ended when you're, because if it's 5% of the budget next year, is it 7% the year after? Is it 9%? And can you tell me that the $180,000 that we're spending is directly attributable to the no crime we're having, as opposed to the over $6.5 million we're spending as a village resident? So thank you for your attention. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it, no matter what side you're on. And at the end of the day, I'm going to vote, as we're one board. We are up here to represent you, and we may not always agree, but I think at the end of the day, we're going to respect what we feel our residents feel is in their best interest. So thanks for your
So I
attention.
have new information I just got today. I can't get the details of the where, because NCPD won't tell us about the license plate readers. They have installed 3 since, I'll say since June. They're looking to install possibly 1 or 2 more in strategic locations. Now, they'll never share where the cameras are.
No, which they
So
should.
As I always tell people, use your eyes, and you might be able to see one, because they're getting smaller and smaller. As Frank
They're pretty
knows.
good at hiding them.
Because there's a license plate reader in Port Washington that I have a very hard time finding. They used to be much bigger, and they're much smaller now. They're really stealthy. It's amazing. So I will try to get assurances from the 6th that there are license plate readers that protect our village. I don't know if they'll tell us the specifics, and if they do tell, I'm never going to release that information. But I will try to find out approximately where they are.
And I think people just not wanting to know that they're there is just helpful, but also the statistics of,
Right. So at least we have some, and
I don't want to
some
repeat
more.
myself.
Right, so some, we might get even more, so that's good, we've got that working for us. You wanna
Does
speak?
anyone have
Well,
any
I-
questions for myself or AJ? But
Well, why don't we,
okay.
if anybody wants to say anything before I open it up to public comment, and then we can go back and
So
forth.
I think Trustee Collins did a very good job of painting the picture. And the important thing that she touched upon is that, look, we all live in the village. We're village residents. We have our family, raise our families here. So we're all concerned about security. But what's comforting to know is that, well, first, let me just say, we did have a string of robberies last year. It was being carried out by a group of individuals that were an organized group that were operating out of, I believe, Newark, New Jersey.
Correct.
Who send people here that have a certain immigration status, so that if they get caught, they basically just throw their arms up in the air and get released. Or if the heat starts to come on, they take them and ship them back to where they came from and bring a new group of people in. From what the commissioner told us, that group was apprehended earlier this year, excuse me. And since that, I don't believe we've had a single incident in the village. Not only that, but I don't know if you know that Nassau County has been designated as the safest large county in the United States. Think about that. Think about how many counties there are in the United States per capita, that this has the lowest crime rate. The security car is something that obviously even those of us on the board have mixed feelings about, but we're really not here to express our feelings. We're really here to look out for the feelings of the residents. But just so you know, we don't believe that the security car has witnessed a single incident that required police intervention since it started.
I think once.
Well, a suspicious
It's
person.
suspicious,
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
but it was no crime committed. So I'm going to throw this out to people to think about. Richie, how many miles of road we have? So, reasonably thinking, does anybody in this room think that one car driving around the village only between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.
with a bright flashing yellow light on saying, hey, here comes the security car. If you're doing something wrong, go hide in the bushes for 3 seconds until I pass. Does anyone really think that that is an effective use of $180,000? I'll wait. You don't have to answer now. But when you think about it that way, logistically, even if that car passes your house twice on a good night, the amount of time it's spending in front of your house is 5 seconds as it drives by. So you gain 10 seconds worth of protection for $180,000 a year. So just think about that, and I'll turn it over to the rest of the board.
Anybody, Gary? You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, Claire.
No, I mean, I think I agree with everything, the points that have been made. I think we all have faith in the Nassau County Police Department. I know we publish the larcenies and whatnot. I think the part that I struggle with is it's the stuff that's not quantifiable, right? Like what was prevented? We don't know.
We'll never know.
We're talking about groups that were organized that are now not in this area. There are others, right? I mean, just because they're not here, we've heard about groups that are in other communities, and we're heading into that time of year. There's going to be packages delivered. I'm not saying that's the crime that's going to happen, but it's the non-quantifiable stuff that I think I struggle with, but fully respect the numbers. So yeah, I think that's it.
I think the other thing to understand is that a lot of the porch pry crimes take place during the day.
Right, this is
And a lot of break-ins take place during the day when nobody's home. It is very unusual for someone to try to break into your home in the middle of the night knowing you're home, because that could be a very bad decision for those people.
But if you remember what
It happened once, yeah.
it happened once,
Yeah.
and then there were some other instances on this
I'm
side.
not saying it can't happen, but
that happened at that time. So
Yeah.
we do have a history of.
But unless that security car is right in
So
front of them.
we're not gonna have back and forth, so we're gonna talk individually.
And by the way, I mean, like the last time we convened this, we heard about all these crimes that were being committed. And when we asked if you called the police, the answer was no, we didn't call the police. So if you had a crime committed and you did not call the police, then there's not a whole lot we can do, because unless the police are notified, and they will respond, trust me. My alarm went off the other night, they were there in like 30 seconds. Very annoyed at me. They had to come and all that.
My neighbor's alarm went off, and they were there in about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open this up to the public. I'm going to call on those who have signed up first, and then I will open it up to those who have not signed up. I will start with Mr. Stephen Fields. 3-minute limit we're going to 3 minutes, and
Okay.
can't pass your time to other people, and the basic rules.
I'll roll up the time.
Next. Go for Stephen Fields. I live at 24 Greenbrier Lane. I just want to start by commending the mayor and the board for scrambling quicker than I thought the municipality ever could to start the patrol when we had a mini crime wave, which I think is the best way to describe it, by launching this patrol so quickly. I thought it couldn't happen that quickly. Many of you know, I, along with 2 other residents in our area, we just started calling it Flower Hill East, which is Country Club, Hewlett, Greenbrier area, formed our own civic association, started our own patrol that was privately funded. The mayor likes to tell me that he beat us to it, starting the patrol by a week.
Beat you by
So
week,
it's
Steve.
impressive. And also, I just want to thank Trustee AJ Smith, and the mayor for putting the task force together, committee, meeting. It's been great talking to everyone. So to me, security is the most important thing. I have my family here. We all have our families here. Car thefts are one thing. That happens. My car can be stolen in a parking lot or damaged in a parking lot, wherever I go every day. Home break-ins is a different story. When home break-ins started and there were rumors, that's when I stood up to want to do something. We raised $1,000 per family. We have about 40 members. We ran our patrol for 4 months. It was successful, no incidents. We stopped the patrol in May of this year because we're out of funds. We did not seek to raise additional money, just given the high cost for a small group. And also because the village was doing something about it, we weren't sure if they would initially. In my opinion, deterrence is the most important thing that a security patrol can do. How much does a rent-a-cop do with a yellow flashing light? I don't really know. It can't hurt. It can hurt $100,000, $180,000 a year. But there are other things too. The signs that are posted at all the entry points to the village. They shine at night with your flashlight, with your car. You see them. That's meaningful. We know, we were informed by the police that the organized crime groups do research and find targets. We know the village, given where it is located, all the various entry points. This is a very affluent community, expensive homes, expensive cars. We're a target in where we are. We get on the expressway very quickly into Queens where there's no pursuit by Nassau County Police. So there are other things other than the patrol. Things like license plate readers are great. Cameras are great. That helps catch people, which ultimately we want to do. We want to catch the bad guys. The security patrol doesn't catch it. It deters, detects, and reports. They will call the police before any of us will. To me, it's a small price to pay for a little bit extra of deterrence. Again, it's just deterrence. No one has a gun. They're just deterrent. How much deterrence? We don't know. No one can prove it. I agree with Trustee Collins. It would be great to have empirical data. We should continue to try to find it. I don't think anyone can prove that it helped. I don't think anyone can prove that it didn't help. It's just the facts. I, for one, have full faith in the Nassau County Police. They are here to protect us. I don't see police cars patrolling my area. And I don't say ever, because I do see police cars every once in a while. Nor do I think the Nassau County Police should be spending their time doing that. They have other things to do. So the Nassau County Police are not a deterrent, right? They're there to catch you. The signs, putting it on the website that our village is patrolled, that helps. These are smart, organized crime. We caught one, there's going to be another, and another, and another. Okay. So, in short, we have on our community of SAFE that we call it, that we represent, are fully supportive of continuing it for a nominal cost of $10 per family a month.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lee, oh,
Can I
question.
just clarify that the signs that Steve was talking about are the signs we put up that says that we have a security patrol. You've probably seen them all, but you use the word signs generically. I just want people, that's what I assume that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the bluish
Yeah.
signs.
Yes.
Mr. Liedman. the floor
Thank
is
you, Mr.
yours.
Mayor. Thank you to the trustees, the mayor, and Trustee Smith, and the rest of the security committee that is here. I am the one person, I mean, you see fully watched YouTube of the last September 9th meeting, I am that one person. And Trustee Collins, you are a person after my own heart. You called for metrics. I said, I can do this. I've spent the past 20 years as a partner at a law firm that reviews clinical trial data for drug and device companies and works through the FDA process of clinical trials and data. So I spent an enormous amount of time looking at data and metrics. So I said, oh, I have a skill set here. I'm not going to charge my hourly billable rate because I will blow your budget as I peek up there. And not to out you, Trustee Smith, but he gave us the data a little after our last meeting, so I couldn't be prepared. But what I did, and it is not final because there's some flaws in some of the metrics and data that I looked at. 3 things popped out immediately, very clear in the data. So I looked at, based on what Trustee Smith gave the security committee, about 30 months of Nassau County data starting in January 22 to June 24. I focused in on burglaries, robberies, auto larcenies, and criminal mischief. And then I really, for lack of time and not really wanting to spend more time than the trustees wanted to see, I focused on auto larcenies because I think that's the point that this patrol could have the most effect on. But I can break this data down in lots of ways. The first thing, very clear, auto larceny is down since the patrol started. I'm being very concise with my words. I'm not saying why, I'm saying auto larceny is down since the patrol started. If I look at the 3-year period of the data of which I had, which is 2022, 23, 24, And I look at March, April, May, June, that 4-month period, right? So the patrol started end of January, beginning of February. Let's just say February is not, I'm not gonna look at that data. So I'm gonna look at March, April, May, June for over the past 3 years, which is really all the data I have now. And I'll provide this to anyone who wants to see it. I'll make it more, once I clean this up and make it more professional, I'll provide it to everyone and the trustees and everyone. But it is very clear. 22 actually was the period of, for that 4-month period was the worst. 23 in that 4-month period was pretty bad. And 24, it is pretty much down to almost nothing if you're looking at this scale. Being contrary to Trustee Smith, who didn't call me out, but I think I know he was talking about me. I feel I need to be entirely unbiased in this data. It is impossible with the data that we have to distinguish between causation and correlation. It literally is. Could I design a study to actually be able to tell you if it works? I probably could. I mean, if we had the right randomized controlled group and I had a lot of money and I created different things at different times, I probably could with the right statistician, but that's not worth anyone's time or money. What I see here in looking at this data, and I'm happy to look at more data and break this down, and as the security committee will work on petitions, but I think the metrics are really important. I'm looking at $10 a month per house, which is a Starbucks. And I'm seeing crime that is like hockey stick downwards. And I'm thinking, I can't determine causation and correlation. I just know where we are now. I know where the end is. Is it Nassau County Police? Probably. Is it the patrol? Maybe. Is it people locking their doors?
Definitely.
Maybe. But it ain't broke, and it's not such an exorbitant cost. I say, don't fix it. I look at these numbers and I wonder why we're even going to engage in this conversation yet. I agree with you, Trustee Collins. I think we continue to look at it. I think we run the data. We can do this on a regular basis. I can give you the data, the charts, and we can look at it and we can talk all together on what other metrics we want to look at. But right now, what I'm seeing is a downward trend, certainly in all, I mean, auto larceny and criminal mischief are two real
Scott,
big
you
ones. I'm done.
gotta-
You're telling me I'm done?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to continue this conversation.
Please give us the
Yeah,
statistics.
I'll shoot
I'd
this
like
around.
to look at it and
Yeah,
share with
I'll
you.
share with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Frankel, the man whose signature I can't read on this.
I want to listen to a couple more, please, before I talk.
Certainly, I think that's you, Larry, who signed up.
Oh, I signed up.
Oh, you signed up, Larry?
Be my guest.
That's why I can't read either
Can
signature.
I ask
No, no,
a
no.
question of the last speaker?
Certainly.
Yeah, have you also analyzed the data in the county to see if it's the same hockey stick or if it's different?
I don't have that data. I'd be happy to do it if I could get it.
You know, otherwise, you just did about the village of Flower Hill.
Village of Flower Hill for 3 years, same time period, same crime, same period. So I'm comparing year over year in the same controlled group.
I think it would be noteworthy if we could know what county did, because it just might be a trend.
Yeah, and I also don't know if the county was up at high when we were high. I don't know. But that would be certainly interesting.
Larry, that is something I can ask of the
Yeah,
police to provide us that information.
The question I really had was whether we have conferred with other villages and other people who have these security patrols, and maybe they have metrics, and what their experience is, and have they discontinued, have they continued, have they ramped it up, down? And if we could, I thought, AJ, did you have any information on that?
We have not compared ourselves village to village. I don't know that there's another model that matches ours, because from what I understand, but I can be wrong, most villages that go into something like this go in off the diving board into the pool, so they have multiple units and multiple patrols, not just one car once a night. So
So,
it's going to be very hard to compare apples and oranges, I think. I mean, some communities around here are gated. You know, there's a lot of different varieties
I
of
can
what that is.
refute that.
Okay.
Roslyn Harbor
As-
has a singular car.
We'll find out what they're.
Yeah,
situation.
They would be a like village in
That's fine.
East Hills has multiple,
Much smaller, Rockland Harbor.
but Roslyn Harbor has one vehicle.
But
And
they don't
Sea Cliff,
They
Sea
don't
Cliff,
have 1,500 homes.
no, but they have a, if we're talking about another village that has a singular car, we can compare
But
that.
if you have 100 houses in a single car, it's different than if you have 1,500
And
houses.
6 miles of road.
And 6 miles of road,
And
yeah.
400 houses.
Yeah.
Well, they might
But-
have,
But it's very similar, very easy accidents, and
Right.
they also have a lot of.
So we have at least
Same thing.
something to look at
They
in
did
terms of
everything.
benchmark too. So
We're here to listen to you.
Yeah.
It's a good suggestion, and I'll take it up.
all right, I don't have a real answer in my own mind. I'm looking for more data. I think metrics to be able to evaluate. I mean, emotionally, yes, it sounds great that we should have it because we will want to protect our kids and grandkids and all that. But you could say that about a lot of things, and we do have a budget to consider. I mean, I'm not being negative about it, right? The more information we have, the more data that's valuable, such as what you provided, the better.
thank you, Larry. Miss Peggy Ryan,
No, I'm good. Everything's been answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
the Straggy, can I say it right? Straggy family, because I think there's two of you.
Anthony, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for the signs at every entrance, that's really appreciated, I like it, it's there, and it was great to see those signs up. With regard to the grants that they said the governmental officials could work on, since we talked about this so long ago, no one has started working on that at all since, or they're still talking about they could be having grants done.
So,
Has any grant work been done?
so there was grant work done for a grant not related to this. I am putting my trust in the Nassau County Police Department to provide us with the license plate readers on their dime, which is what they kind of committed to doing. If that doesn't meet our needs, then we can start looking for possible grants to support additional hardware that could feed into their system.
Because they were present at the meetings, the police commissioner, the representatives, governmental, and it was a big crowd and they all talked about it, but I wish something would have been started already. And, you know,
So,
how long?
As I stated, I did have some information that there were some installed
Right.
in the North Shore, but I don't have the exact locations to guarantee that it's protecting
And
us.
are there any cameras anywhere? Besides, well, you're talking about the license plate readers.
Right, which is the most
that
effective.
separate?
Cameras alone aren't as effective. It's
Uh-huh.
license plate readers that get the data on the car itself. Assuming that the car is not a stolen vehicle,
Right.
because then that doesn't help you at
Which it
all.
usually is, yeah.
Right.
I would like to, I know you talked about the grants mentioned tonight were state grants, right? That
Mhm.
process, that
Yeah.
process doesn't start until January, so obviously forward looking, but it would have been impossible to get a grant from the state between that meeting and today.
It would
Thank
be
you for reminding me.
appreciated
Yeah.
if we could get as much help as we can.
Absolutely.
Our
Yeah, it's very
tax dollars are out there and anything that could help is appreciated. Thanks.
Any other comments from any other residents? Because I'm done with the sign-up sheet. Lisa?
Hi, I didn't sign up. Lisa Chieko, 75 Walnut Lane. I also want to say
I
just
signed you up right now.
Thank you. I haven't heard anything that I disagree with. The only thing that I would like to request is that you don't vote to discontinue it until after the holidays. There is no way to say that A stops B. You know, there is no way to do that. Nassau County Police deserve every cent of the $6 million. They're all doing a great job. But crime is cyclical. They know to come back. They know that we go shopping. They know that we leave things in our car. If it, we'll never know. But if it deters one bad guy, if they see the sign and says, you know what, I'm not going to go down this block today because I see the sign, I think it's worth it. You know, I have a lot of single women on my block. I'm home alone most of the time. It would make me feel good. And it's a lot of money. I don't like to spend money needlessly. But the way I understand it, it's already in the budget. And I know you have to replenish the reserves that we used last year for it, but if it's already in the budget, I think that it would be in our best interest just to keep it until at least after the holidays. And then, because I know that it's a 30-day, we have to give them 30-day
30
notice.
days notice, correct.
Right, so if we can say keep it until after the holidays and then revisit it again, I think at least that would make a lot of people feel better, and I think that's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Mayor, can I just add one quick thing? As far as timing wise, everything we've heard is it's the winter, right? The nights are longer, it's darker. I would say you have to wait till the winter, after the winter, and see what happens after the winter to then see. Because holidays, yes, but everything that the police have told us is the summer, nothing happens. It all happens over the winter. So let's see what this winter brings.
That seems reasonable. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering, and this is just like spitballing, obviously, if we're able to get cumulative data, like Lehman was able to like put together these really helpful charts with respect to not like weekly or monthly, but maybe from an annual basis and see on average if there's high crime, let's say from October to March, would it be okay to have security patrols during that time, and we can, you know, cut the budget in half, and we'll still be able to have some sort of peace of mind, especially when there are, you know, like holidays and nights that are shorter daytime and stuff like that. Like, is that a possibility that maybe you guys would be looking into?
Anything is a possibility, and I think that's a very good suggestion. I think it came up in our security meeting. One of you two brought it up. So it's something that could work. It's also a question of hopefully finding a partner that's willing to do us, you know, provide us the service in a seasonal basis. It might limit our choices, but it's definitely something to consider in the future.
And unfortunately, whether it gets dark at 4:30 or 9:30, the security car wouldn't be there anyway. It doesn't come on until 10.
No, I understand that, and I understand that it's not affected by the time that the sun goes down, but when it is.
It seems that when the sun sets early, that's when the crimes start. That's crime season.
Right, it's just everybody's in bed earlier and people are like on the prowl when somebody normally goes to bed at, let's say, midnight, they're in bed by 10 and then their car is getting broken into 11 and 12 as opposed to 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.
All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was kind of skeptical back in last February when we all had the big meeting, everybody piled in here, and I wasn't sure what the one car with the little red light flashing, yellow light flashing around at night, come by my house once, maybe twice in the evening. And until between the signs up, my neighbors to my left and my right would be feeling much more comfortable, just whether they see it or they don't see the car. I talk to them, they feel very comfortable. And the fact that until I look now, the number of residents, we have almost 5,000 residents that you have in our community. And you're saying, what are the odds of this car coming by, if it comes by your house once a night, seeing what's going on? Since March, the person who's been in that car has stopped me, my wife, and my son-in-law. 3 people out of that in 5 months. We were in our driveway, we were doing something, one of them was running down the block after something, and this one guy just happened to, I said, the odds of that happening to one person out of the 2,800, I said, I want this to stay.
You're on the suspicion list. That's why. We told them, watch this guy. Make sure everything's good. Any other questions or comments? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm the neighbors with Lisa 5 Walnut. I guess I'm disappointed with the turnout tonight because if it wasn't for Lisa telling us we have a chat on Walnut, I think more people probably would have been here tonight because I corner Boulder and Walnut, and everybody I spoke to wants to keep it. My son has also been stopped. Both of my sons have been stopped. So they're around, he's obviously around. I mean, they weren't doing anything wrong.
Well, they're not stopped.
In their 20s.
No one is, just to clarify, no one is stopped. The security control just asks questions.
He walked by my son walking the dog, and he actually said to him, hey, be careful that there was just an incident on Stony Town not too long ago.
Right.
Just be aware, please.
And traditionally, they ask, are you okay? Do you need any
You're
assistance?
saying not
Yes.
around and stuff, I'm saying I agree. I'm home a majority of the time, through the night by myself. So I feel, and I do see the police as well, so I'm very comfortable. To me, for this $120, it makes, and I know a lot of my neighbors agree, it just makes us a little more comfortable. Maybe there is consideration after the winter, to, analyze the data.
All right, thank you.
I think, just to add to that, it would be helpful if we had a dialogue, a more comprehensive with, which I'm sure you will, with Commissioner Ryder, to provide some additional information that would be helpful to us about, I'm sure they are doing things, what is it? And
Listen,
you don't need to tell us where the LPRs are, but I think.
they have done a phenomenal job after we had all those incidents. Them working with, I believe at the time it was the Lake Success Police, they were able to apprehend a large group of these people. And Nassau County Police did commit a lot of resources to not just us, but stopping all this invasion of crime. Like they've done a phenomenal job. This is not, having this patrol is not saying we have no faith in the NCPD. What it says is we would like a little more coverage, and that provides us the extra coverage for those people who feel it's necessary. But by no means is this saying at all that the Nassau County Police is not doing the job. I think they've always done a great job. It's just, unfortunately, crime waves happen. They do their investigations. They arrest the people. They dissuade other people from coming. And then we're back to where it should be, relatively crime-free. Mr. Frankel, you finally would like to speak.
Thank you. I think most of you know my position because I've stated it before, but I've tried to listen to the community. And I don't think you're hearing from the whole community. There's a few takeaways from what little bit I've heard tonight. I think you should be cognizant of just what we've got here. A lot of the comments to me are more from emotion. I've been stopped in my driveway. I talked to the guy. I'm really only interested in statistics. Nassau County does a fine job. As a matter of fact, they took care of a problem. They determined that there was a problem that they could deal with, and crime's down. All I'm interested in is that reduction in crime. You're gonna get the crime regardless. The question is, how do we approach it? We don't need a security patrol. Some people will feel comfortable because there's a blinking light driving around. I just don't happen to be one of those people. But more important is, what's the end result? The end result is crime is down. Nassau County is doing its job. We're paying them a lot of money in our tax dollars to do it. And you and I know that $180,000 is going to be tripled, and it's $600,000, and then it's 15% of the budget. So numbers lie. Probably not much different. If I wanted to talk, which I appreciated Mr. Smith's comments about the committee, and I've got 20 people here or 35 people that have signed up. Well, 20 people is really 10 families, because the husband and wife, if they're a pair, or 2 people signed from the same household. That's 10 households out of 1,500 households. So those things don't mean anything to me, personally. What means something to me, when we did the traffic study back in the mid-1980s, and we did something significant for the benefit of the community, we got the whole community involved. We sent out a postcard, I think it was, to every resident in the community. And if you really want to do it in a democratic way, but I'm not sure what that means these days, but the point being, then get an opinion from every member of the community. Do you want, based on the stats that we have right now, a security patrol, and this is what it might or might not cost, and do a projected cost on that? Look, there's no, in my opinion, and I've heard it, I've spoken to the 6th precinct, I've spoken to the 3rd precinct, there does not seem to be any anecdotal information or evidence that these security patrols help in any significant way. I know Saddle Rock has a reader, I know this place does this. All you can do, and it is a cost factor as well, and don't make it, well, it's de minimis, it only costs $10 a month. It's a slippery slope. Anything that happens with the government, it is exponential down the road. So you're just passing the buck, if we were to embrace a security patrol, to people that are gonna move into the community in the future. You really have to determine, is it really necessary? And I don't think you're ever gonna get your arms around it completely. I think you have to go with your gut. And I don't think your gut's gonna be that accurate individually. I appreciate what the board is trying to do. Send a mailing. Hear what your community has to say. Let them not be bound by it, because you still do what you want. You represent the community, but take a consensus. That would be the way I might think to approach this.
All right, thank you. I gave you extra minute, David. You're
Was it
special.
within the time limit?
You're at 4 minutes, I gave you an extra. All right, if there's no other comments, then let's move on to the rest of the board meeting. If there are any other public comments on any topic other than what we just discussed, please raise your hand. All right. Let me pull my agenda. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way to get on this list? I didn't get an email either.
What
but
list?
I heard from Mark that there was a meeting tonight.
So we have a database that we've been sending out a mayor's newsletter for 3 years. The previous mayor had a newsletter. We send all the village communications digitally. You can email Ms. Wolfson or give her your information now, and we can add you to the list.
Thank you.
You can also always check the website.
And give her your phone number too, because we don't bombard you with calls. But if it's like an emergency, we use the phone system as well to reach out to people. Yeah, no, sign up for our communication list.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
Hold on one second. Wonderful. Bear with me for 3 seconds. Terrible agenda. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 9th, 2024 public hearing and regular meeting. Does anybody have any questions on the minutes? No, so I'm going to make a motion to accept the minutes, seconded by.
Second.
That'd be Trustee Smith, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes, I'll say unanimously. Next, we have the treasurer's report. As always, I review and sign off on every single voucher. There is nothing in here that I think is out of the ordinary. We'll talk about some truck stuff later with Rich. If there are any trustees have questions on any of our expenditures for the month? Since I hear no questions, I'm going to make a motion to approve the claims, seconded by. That would be Trustee Dorfman, all in favor? Aye. I'll assume that's unanimous. New business. I'm going to pass the ball to our village administrator to discuss, I know you don't want to talk about it, the sponsor median program.
So we started, in connection with starting a beautification committee. I reached out to the hospital and asked if they would be interested in sponsoring some of our islands or an island, and got a positive response. They were interested in sponsoring the one it's directly across from them at the intersection of Middle Neck Road and Port Washington Boulevard. Because we have, I guess you're gonna talk about this maybe down the road here, but because we don't know what's gonna happen with that, with the state DOT is considering making a straight road right into the hospital. They may get rid of one of those islands, so the hospital is going to wait until we know what we're gonna do. We have the ability to shut that down. Before they commit to the amount of money that they're gonna spend. But in that process.
Repeat that, so do we submit a design and say this is what it's gonna cost, or do we wait to see if the state's gonna build a road?
Gave them
I
a
lost you there.
price of $15,000 for the two.
I'm sorry?
I asked them for $15,000 for both meetings.
Based
There are
on-
two,
What was that based on?
based on planting, in those particular medians, you're gonna have to put some paving on the edges because otherwise
curbs are
everything will be
terrible.
destroyed
Yeah.
immediately
Cars drive over them.
and constantly. And this is just based on my experience, in Roslyn Harbor, what it's gonna cost pretty much to plant and loosely and maintain, at least in the initial year. And then we will have to visit it again next year. In terms of if it's just a maintenance situation, it would probably be less money to continue. But in that process, I just made it a sponsor median program, hoping to reach out to we have businesses in this community, other businesses and whoever else, not political, to see if they would be interested, because right now we don't have a line item for that. We don't have, a budget for beautification, and that would be a nice start
So
to
there,
help.
when there's a sponsor, they're gonna get some recognition.
They're gonna get, like a small recognition with their name.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, I think maybe on the major thoroughfares, like, I don't even know, it's a state DOT's road, Fort Washington Boulevard. I wouldn't be opposed to something like this, but I think in some of the more private areas of the community, I wouldn't be for it. I understand, my position, I was adopt an island, so it would be the local residents who would do the adoption. So I think but I like the idea of having both opportunities for us to figure out ways of not just funding maybe from someone who wants to sponsor an island or median, but also be able to bring on board people who are willing to work as well, to help us. So it's an interesting proposition. I only had one question, and it's a technical question, because Mary Jo and I went out on Saturday to look at some of these, and that was one of the ones that we did look at.
We're gonna get to that, but yes.
Okay, so I'm assuming that part of because it's like at the intersection of Middle Neck and Port Washington Boulevard, so part of it must be in the right of way of Port Washington Boulevard. That is state DOT right of way,
Those are ours. Those medians are ours.
wholly ours.
Totally ours.
Oh, okay,
According
I think
to
the road
our
only
GIS,
okay.
And
that was Nassau County. They outdeeded that over to us when we took over Middle Neck.
Right.
According to our GIS, those are our islands.
And even the center island, Richard.
Not the center
I
islands.
thought the state only has jurisdiction over the road beds, not that the local community has to maintain the islands.
The median.
For Washington Boulevard.
The median.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but we're,
So let me explain what happened. So the village, the state is responsible for those center medians. At the time, Mayor Phillips negotiated a deal
we got a
with
tree.
the state
We
DOT
got that tree.
that we would, I think we paid for those
We paid for
plantings.
that, I thought the state put that tree
No,
in.
we put them all in.
Oh.
All those, I forgot the types of trees those are, but all those trees, crepe myrtles and the green stuff is ours. And when they die, we have replaced them. And we maintain them. Now, the state does come, if we're lucky, maybe once a year or twice a year and mows and maintains, but we, with the deal that Mayor Phillips made with the state, we, I guess, entered into an IMA, and we were given the go-ahead to maintain the islands, because if you remember, years ago, those were overgrown and they were awful. So Mayor Phillips took the bull by the horns and got it taken care of. But those are still the state DOT. So thank you, Waller, for that sponsor meeting. Hopefully we'll find
For what it's
something.
worth, I do agree with you in terms of the interior vibe. You don't really want signs in your neighborhood, nor do I think that a business would really
Right.
get any sort of benefit.
Right,
from
no,
that.
they want maximum
But that being said,
exposure.
there are that many businesses, and I think that you can say, if you want recognition, these are your available
Right.
spots. I mean, and you could work like that. And it would be great if residents, would like to participate
Yeah.
Especially because we are looking for things that are free maintenance, free, almost maintenance free.
Right, but if we had someone taking,
So,
weeding and doing other things like that.
yes, that would be great. Right, thank you.
Next there is a 54-unit residential development in the village of Roslyn. It's not in Flower Hill, but actually borders Flower Hill. It is the waterfront property just north of the viaduct on Shore Road.
Correct.
It is next to Flower Hill property. We don't own it. It's owned by T. Stefano. And then that's to the north, and then to the south is the Roslyn Border District. I had some very serious concerns about this development because the design is really not in becoming of what we would expect in our village. It's very industrial and it looks more appropriate down a lumber road.
Yeah, it fits in with that whole lumber road look, that Brooklyn warehouse kind of
Which is
feel.
great for lumber road, but not there. They're also looking to put up a rooftop garden for the residents. So my concern is we have residents who live across the street. Noise concerns of the look and feel of the building because it's very industrial. And we have concerns about the traffic that it's going to generate. There's no light there. There won't be a light there because it is into a private road. So the county will, and that's a county road, the county will not put a traffic light. So my concern is with 54 homes, which could be 100 vehicles coming in and out daily, with deliveries, school buses, et cetera, et
And that's
cetera.
already a bad road.
How is it going to be safe?
Yeah,
because
because
we've
we
had
roads already a disaster in the afternoon, and you
Correct.
takes you like.
So
Because
Half hours.
our village attorney,
they put in an industrial development, but then they change everything into business use.
Right.
Which you get 4 times as many cars as with.
Right.
So really
so it's very concerning for the safety of our residents who live nearby and the safety of our residents who drive by. So our village attorney will be representing us at their next meeting, October 15th. And if any resident has any concerns, please reach out to the village of Roslyn and express your concerns about this development.
I think the mayor was being very gracious when he described it as industrial. It's probably one of the ugliest things that, and we actually get, Gary, we have the drawings.
I saw.
Yeah.
I will stand by my common sense industrial. I'm not a design professional. I will not pass judgment. Next is we need to do another ARPA funds resolution. The reason being, and I'm going to jump over now into the Public Works Superintendent report. We did order a new pickup truck, which the board approved as part of our capital plan. Unfortunately, our dump truck, the F-250 or is it 350? F-450, we've been putting way too much money into it for maintenance and repairs. And it seems like it's a money pit that's just going to get worse and worse. So that being said, we were able to fortunately cancel the order of the new F-250. We're going to replace it instead with a new Ford F-450 dump truck with plow. So because we already made a motion on how to use our ARPA funds, just to be safe, because we have to dedicate our ARPA funds. We don't have to spend them, but we have to dedicate them by December. I wanted to do another ARPA funds resolution to state for this type of vehicle instead of the other vehicle.
Is that a new vehicle or used?
Yeah.
$110,000, that's all it is for a dump truck with a plow? Pretty
It's
good.
understate contract.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, trucks are usually.
State-
I don't have to tell
so-
you what we pay for trucks.
Stainless steel bed, because the
Correct.
dump body that we have now was steel and it's been rotting out like mad.
That's a great.
So, no, it's a very good deal. So do I need to, I'm going to make a resolution. Marlon, Jeff.
What?
Yes, exactly. I'd like to make a resolution to help me with this resolution in this
So
case.
the resolution will be to amend the previously approved resolution of the board for the designation of vehicles with respect to ARPA funds, and instead approving the funds being used for the F-450 as opposed to the previously approved vehicle.
Thank you. I will make that motion, seconded by
I'll second.
Ms. Dorfman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? No, passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Next is the Women's Club of Flower Hill. Would like to use our lovely village park for a pumpkin patch on October 14th from 1 to 2:30. They did this same event last year. It was a lot of people there. It was a great event. So we unfortunately didn't do this resolution last month. So we need to do it. We have all the data. We have, as always, a certificate of liability. We're named as an insured party. So I would like to make a motion to approve the use of the Flower Hill Park by the Women's Club of Flower Hill on October 14th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. on the 14th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
If I'm a member, can I second?
You know what?
Right?
Thank you. I was thinking.
You have to abstain.
No, I can't.
Recuse yourself. So seconded by,
I'll second.
all in favor? And
Forgot about that.
And you will recuse yourself from the vote?
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah.
It's passing.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. Next on the agenda. I guess that's the agenda. I stole the superintendent's new truck. What else, Rich, is going on? Did we install the new water fountain yet?
Trying to do it either tomorrow or Wednesday.
So our 2 water fountains kind of died, and we bought a new water fountain. And this one's going to have one of those bottle filling stations with a filter and everything. Yeah, but no dogs can't drink out of this one. It's not going to have the. It's not going to have the.
bottom?
No.
Bring your own waterfall.
Yeah.
We have those.
So we'll see how this one goes. If it lasts the winter, gets abused, because it's a different type of construction than what we currently have. And then we'll place the next one next year, depending on how well this cool new water fountain works. So that's that. Rich, anything else from Public Works? Excellent. ARC report, Mr. Albinsky. I appreciate you staying.
Sure. Right, this is September 30th, meeting the Architecture Review Committee. We had 6 items on the agenda. The first one was, this came from the trustees. This was the new Rivian application. This was for the signage. They basically putting the signs in the same place with the T-Mobile village, have the same size, complies with zoning, and we approved that. Returning applications, 8 Cardinal, this was for solar panels. We asked them to put only on the rear facing roof, which they came back and did, so that's approved as submitted. 79 Dartmouth Road, rear and side additions, they made some major changes as far as location of the addition that they did as per previous comments, and we had some very few specific comments for them to do, and with that, with those conditions, we have it for you for approval. 113 Dartmouth, portico and rear addition. We still had some items we'd like to refine, especially in the portico, and a sketch is provided to the architect, more specific, so we understood what the committee was looking for, so we're asking for that. And we also asked that upon field samples, the colors for the application be approved by the ARC in the field. But that has to be returned to the next meeting. 38 Country Club Drive, down the road here, they're adding a garage to that. That lot has 2 houses on it, small lot, bigger house. So they had to add a garage to this house, because the garage was on the separate lot. They had asked to whitewash the brick, and we said no. So they're gonna, we told them keep the same brick on the addition, and that's approved with that condition. And then we had 330 Manhattan Woods Road, additions and rear yard alterations. We first looked at the drawings, and they came in with some nice 3D drawings, and we understood it, and we approved that application as submitted.
38, have they applied to knock down the existing garage yet?
No.
Okay.
I don't have an application in for that yet.
I did want to make some comment on that so that the board understands that. So, yeah, currently it's a house that's a freestanding historical home from the 30s, I guess. It's like a brick Tudor, very nice character, and it has a really almost like carriage house kind of, or separate garage, dormer
Little
garage.
house.
Yeah, it's almost a cute little house, right?
Yes.
So they are putting in the new, which is a pretty, I think a pretty sensitive addition they're doing to the current house. And as Peter had mentioned, that we impress upon them that they should keep it as being its current unwashed brick, if you will. But the committee did express interest in what they were planning to do in the other lot, and that the characters that they could, we were telling them to, very much telling them that they ought to continue with the character that that current house and garage is. So hopefully they will follow through on that. But I think that was, it's a shame to see it go, because it's interesting and very pretty, but obviously for practical reasons, there's, and like I said, it was a sensitive addition. So.
I haven't met the landowner, but I want to give them kudos for saving the house.
Right.
They didn't need to, it's not landmarked.
Right.
So kudos to them for realizing they have a beautiful home that they just need to update and renovate, and they can sell it and make a nice profit on it. So that's great news. I will make a motion. Is anyone here who is interested in any of these properties on the ARC report? That being said, no, I would like to make a motion to accept the ARC report and approve it. Seconded by?
Second.
That would be Mr. Smith. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
As always, Trustee Ludowski will abstain. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Elginski.
Thank you.
Mr. Blinkoff.
Yes, the board has received a written report following the Board of Zoning Appeals hearing from September 18th. There are three matters that the board had decided upon. I've reviewed them, I'll just briefly talk through each. There was an application for 525 Manhasset Woods Road, where essentially what they were seeking were two things. One is to expand upon an already legal non-conforming structure at the site. They were going to keep the same setback, just go up and add a second story. The purpose of it was to have a studio for the use of one of the homeowners, and the board felt that that would not in any way negatively impact the village, but would give a benefit to the homeowner, so approved it, as long as that was not to be used for habitable space. The second request for that property was to amend and to expand their driveway. They actually came before the board several times and they minimized their request. And what they explained, and the board understood their explanation, is that on that portion of Manhasset Woods Road, with the angle of the driveway that they had, in order to get in, to have an entrance into the driveway, they pretty much had to go onto oncoming traffic to make the turn. So their request was to expand the driveway somewhat in order to allow for that turn to take place. They did minimize the request after one hearing, and the board felt that with that change it would be appropriate. The next was on 29 Ridge Drive East, and there essentially this comes down to an additional request to expand or to maintain an expanded driveway and curb cut. And what the applicant pointed out, and quite convincingly to the board, was that in fact in that very neighborhood there were about 4 or 5 other properties with roughly the same size curb cuts, roughly similar driveways, and after discussion, the board determined that this would not in any way have a negative impact, and again would benefit the homeowner and approved. The final application was at 7 Ridge Drive East, and from a brief review, I think that what you see is that the applicant greatly reduced what the applicant was seeking to do. They were originally seeking 6 separate variances. for both driveway expansion, for the pool area expansion. And over time, and I'm working with Mr. Obinsky and taking into account that the board expressed some great reservation about some of the portions of the request, they removed all but 2 requests, essentially really just focusing on having a little bit, not a little bit, I don't want to characterize it, but having an expanded pool area. And in fact, they had also worked with the board on that as well to remove some of the surround so that it wouldn't have as much impact. They didn't even need a variance for the surround. And essentially after that, the board took into account that they had mitigated any negative impact, and the board approved the 2 remaining variances. So I submitted a written report of that to the board. The full decision on the 3rd application has already been rendered by the BZA. The other 2 are pending written decisions. And that's fine.
In the case of 29 Ridge Drive, they built that driveway
They did.
intentionally and then came asking for forgiveness instead of permission.
That is correct. And
Okay.
the board,
Because they had a valid building permit when they built the house, but they decided to build the driveway that they wanted, not the one that they were permitted to do.
that is correct.
Okay. I just wanted that to be clear for everybody on the board. Mayor's report, and then we'll go to trustees report. I've had a subsequent meeting with DOT about the work that they want to do on Middle Neck Road approaching Port Washington Boulevard without data, because the state was not able to provide us adequate data to prove that the reconfiguration that they wanted to do would not adversely affect any of the residents that live on Middle Neck Road or that live, and I have to look at the map because it was
Cherrywood too.
Thank
Back
you.
up across that.
Cherrywood and subsequent roads there, especially school buses, because we have the Port Washington school buses that turn there, and we have the Roslyn school buses, because the dividing line of the 2 districts are right there. They were not able to provide us with any data that said there would be no effect on our residents there. So that being said, we are expressing a negative opinion on the Reed Road configuration there. It's just not, if they have data that says it's going to be good, I'm all for it, but they can't provide the data.
The traffic light's gonna back up all the way down to
It
almost
possibly,
your house is in.
which it does sometimes today. It's just, if they gave us data and I can give it to the residents, say this isn't a problem, I'm all in. But they just don't have the data and they're not able to provide the data. So that's why we have expressed a negative opinion on this project. They are also going to, good thing is they're going to extend the queuing lanes to get into the hospital in order to provide a more safe environment for roads to get, for cars to not be in the roadway when they need to make the turns. And they're also looking to adjust the timings of the light when they add the extra queuing, so if there's extra cars there, there's more time for those cars to make it into the hospital safely. That's that. Trustees report. Anybody want to talk about the beautification committee?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. So we had we did a brief tour of some of the most prominent islands, traffic islands, Mary Jo and I, and Kevin Natali from Laurel Group, who has kindly volunteered his time and professional experience to help us do some planning on this. We also had one of the people who volunteered for the committee who is part of Rewild and also has gotten the, I'm going to get this wrong, but from the Cornell extension, she's
Master Gordon.
Master Gardener, thank you. It was interesting. It was eye-opening for me because, sometimes you forget until you actually take a close look at things. It's like, yeah, we can do better. But we had an interesting dialogue. Kevin has a lot of experience. We have to recognize that we don't have any irrigation, so we have to be sensitive to that. I think he had put out some list of things of opportunities of what we could do, but with the idea that in most cases we have to think about drought-resistant plants because we're not going to be watering them, and we'll maintenance to manage it. So I think it was a good first stab at it. We saw enough variety where we talked about a lot of different ideas. I think Mary Jo and I kind of have to figure out what the next steps are. After that, I mean, sinking in. But I thought it was a good
First step.
First step, just kind of.
Thank you guys very much. And a thank you to the Laurel Group for volunteering their
Let me just add one
expertise.
thing, so just to frame it, okay, so Mayor put together based on, I think people expressing interest, right? You and Marla picked a committee. Committee is like 7 people, of which B is one, and then you identified Kevin as somebody who had done a lot of work in the village and surrounding areas, libraries, commercial and residential, is very well. Those of you who drive up Park Avenue in Muncie Park and have seen that Larry Sorello's plantings, that's Laurel Group. So there are 24 islands. What I've asked Mitchell to do, he's not here tonight, but I've asked Mitchell to see if there's any history, how those islands, when they were originally planned, and was there any plan for planting, or was there a homeowners association? I've lived here 12 years, so I have no idea for the past 100 years what was done, how long they've been there. So of the 24 islands, again, no irrigation, but was there, B thought she's been here 49 years, that may have been an HOA at one point. Is there, you're talking about adopt an island, right? So what Gary and I decided to do first was, let's meet with the person who's volunteered, who's the expert, because if you get 7 people in a room with all different opinions, you probably get nowhere, and people leave the meeting going, what was that all about, other than a waste of time?
Unless it's the security committee, because when I get 7 people in a room, they're very focused. Very focused.
So anyway, I think we do have 24 islands. I want to know what the history of Flower Hill, how did Flower Hill, like if you look at Flower Hill and you look at that island in St. Francis or Country Club or most of our other islands, you're saying, okay, this is not exactly a great example of Flower Hill. So this is really it's not a need to have, but it's a nice to have, and we're trying to plan for the future of how do we thoughtfully, and as you pointed out, this could be a 3 to 5 year plan. What Gary and I are going to do is, my suggestion, it all comes down to money at the end of the day, right? And where do we get it and how much do we need? So numbers, you said numbers lie, but numbers don't lie. So we're going to find out what the numbers are. What are we talking about here in terms of phases? And his initial suggestion was we would get, so far with just doing maintenance, we have an arborist on staff, but she's to really see if somebody's trees are code or that type of thing. Mm-hmm. We don't have anybody like a Heffron tree service. There are many trees that he points to, he said, these need to come down, or even on Rolling Woods or Country Club, and might just make the sign there. We don't have a landscape planner to say this is what would be, what do we plant here now so that 5 years from now, this really looks nice. If you look at Mason and Pinewood, which we did, we looked at, I think, 10 islands, Gary?
Something like
10 islands. There are some very quick
just
hits.
editing out stuff.
Just in terms of cleaning up some of the crap that is there now. So, and that hasn't been done because now we have a beautification committee. So we will probably come back to you with suggestions after we get our group together, but we can't get the group together before we have something to show them and say, here's, what the plan is. So I think that's just to add to what Gary said, just so people understand where we're going here.
Can I ask a question?
No.
So I live around the corner from you, as you know. There used to be a beautiful tree on that island going into Country Club that was taken down like 5-6 years ago. Maybe it was disease or something happened. And I just noticed like a few weeks or a month ago, this tiny little 2-inch diameter tree was planted.
Yeah.
What is that?
So Marla was able to get a grant. She was able to get a grant. There was no consultation with the beautification committee because we just got together, we haven't met. So she had to get it planted in time to take pictures to show the grant people that we actually planted it. What Kevin suggested is that we replant that thing somewhere else, put it in the park, put it anywhere, that it is probably not going to grow fast enough, that we do agree an ornamental tree would be nice there, and you have to keep in mind, you can't block, because that's a pretty busy,
Yeah.
you can't block this
Yeah.
building. But there are trees that will fit that bill in terms of, we move the sign, like, we got into the level of minutia of, we move the sign forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch,
And put a
there's
tree
just
behind
basic,
it, but,
like,
yeah.
design criteria that we need to put
Right.
together that would then organize it and allow enough guidelines that we know, even if we're not doing it this year, a year from now, we know exactly what needs to go into that island.
So,
It's
that's-
very early in on this.
I was just
but-
curious, just
And,
because we were talking about
and we
it.
did pick islands that are the most visible. That one happens to be across from Village Hall. There's some other ones that people, by the bridge down in Pinewood, people see those more often than one on a Gateway Court. Not that that's not important, but
Right.
I think we tried to pick ones that were most visible to our community, that we would get the most bang for our buck and say, hey, you know what, here's what we're doing.
Right, like on Mineola Avenue by the gas station there.
Yep.
Where it crosses into Center
Yeah.
Drive.
So anyway, so that's what we're
I was-
working
I was
towards,
just
but
curious. Yeah, I was curious. And by the way, one of my grandiose ideas on our civic association, it still exists. We're thinking about charging like $25 a year for people to just deliver flowers or cookies to someone who moves in or something, was also beautification. And like, we had that island in mind, was something we talked about.
and that's what you said, Marla, in terms of that maybe as neighborhood, and again, so
Right.
that will come up when we have our committee. Do we want to have different groups, because there are different, the mayor's picked different, I think Knollwood people were interested, the Flower Hill Women's Club was interested, so there are different pockets of residents that have expressed interest. The idea is everybody's gonna be talking their own agenda, how do we do
Yes,
something?
Exactly.
How do we do something that's fair to everyone, that we can fund, right? And not saying we can't, we haven't asked for any money yet. I'll bet you there are people, I mean, my husband was ready to, I went down to the tree planting and said, just tell me how much it costs, take that tree out. We'll
That's
plant
what I told my wife, I'm like, we should just plant.
No, don't, we're already ahead of you, but anyway, Marla did it because it had to be planted. Probably not the best place to plant it, you could have planted it in the.
The grant was due October 11th, and I'm new here, so I'm local. And so this is a grant they applied for last year, didn't get. I had the pictures and everything. We couldn't get a bigger tree. We tried everyone, everyone on the island, everyone.
Where'd this tree come from?
Georgia.
See, we had to get an
Georgia.
imported tree
But the
from
whole
Georgia.
grant was only $1,000,
The whole grant
wasn't
was
it? So I mean,
$1,000,
it's
but
like,
whatever,
all right, we're gonna do it, we gotta do it right. You gotta do
I
it.
learned something, that's interesting. There we go, there's a reason.
Yes, there is.
There's a chance the Mets are gonna be playing the Braves, we put a Georgia tree in our park.
I'm a Yankee
I have a real problem with
I know,
that.
So the call is gonna be in to move that tree.
Well, more importantly, the Yankees are winning 1-0.
Hey. All right, any other issues from our lovely trustees? That being said, I will make a motion to end the meeting. Our next meeting will be Monday, November 4th at 7 p.m. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're all dismissed. Get out of here.
It's 1-1.
Oh, they just scored?
That's where I've been checking every.
You go into the village?
You can all root for a subway service.
Yeah, I should be there. I'm not looking forward to eating the food, but I'll be there.
So I feel like you have.
I had steak last night at Main Shanghai Cove. I don't need another steak. Now I always get the steak. We planted that stick just to see.
I was so curious, and now there's a reason for it, so it makes sense.
There was a grant reason. Hello.
I'm Rebecca Silver.
Oh.
I emailed with you.
Yes.
I just want to say hello.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Yeah. I guess I haven't met you at Eddie's house.
No, it's my first
But I'm
meeting.
sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next
I'll
one.
probably see you down by the Burmans because everyone's always.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen my kids down there.
Who's your kids?
Elliot and Ruby. I don't know, with the Russian nanny. I'm sure you've heard them speak to her. It's okay.
Wait, Ruby's your daughter?
My daughter's Ruby, yeah.
I know the name, but I can't remember.
That's okay.
That.
There's a lot of kids down there.
There's always kids there.
Yeah.
And then they're always down by me. So there was back and forth and back and
I'm
forth.
sure they're down there. My nanny loves to hang out with Bridget and with Liana. Yeah, she's so
Bridget
cute.
doesn't speak English yet, but she will.
But you know
when I hang out
what?
with
My
her.
nanny just told me she started speaking like full-on sentences, so she'll be speaking English like
Good.
probably by
Because
next
I see
week.
Bridget at least once a day.
I'm sure.
When she's out with the nanny.
Back and forth, yeah. Just for winter and the summer.
No, I'm excited to be able to, because I see Brielle. Brielle made this bracelet.
Oh,
So,
very nice.
Yes, when she was selling bracelets door to door.
Oh, so she didn't make it for you. She sold it to you.
Of course she sold it to me.
Okay,
No,
she's a smart girl.
Don't even go that word to me anymore. Yes. So I was thinking maybe just our friend was selling bracelets too. So I was thinking that might have been your daughter.
No, my daughter's 2.5, so she.
Oh, so definitely not.
She was not yet. She'll hustle for it later. Yeah,
They-
she's
they
little.
play with a water table or something.
Yeah,
I
or
think
they
I've
come to my
seen-
house.
I've
I'm
seen-
sure you have.
I've
Yeah,
seen your daughter.
with 2 little pigtails. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have.
That's okay.
It was nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you
Thanks
as well.
for coming to board meeting.
Thanks for having
You
me.
can always watch us on our, actually, you know what? I need to turn
No,
the
it's
video
nice
off.
to it's nice to get out of the house.
Sometimes all on our, I mean, there's so many books.
I like to get
I
out
mean,
of
there's
the
so
house.
many ways to
Have
a great night.
Nice meeting you.
I'm not, to me, I don't even look at percentages, I just look at